Cool, man. I'm nervous. Hopefully this goes smooth. This is my first time doing the virtual. Um, all right, but here we go. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Modern Creative Podcast. Today we have a special guest, Farid, based out of Seattle, Washington. Correct? Yeah, Seattle,
Correct.
Washington. Farid is a business owner, has his own production company. Also I'd say fair to say, like a business coach. Correct, in a way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Farid, please let our audience know who are you and what are you about, man?
Yeah. Well, thanks. First of all, thanks for having me. It's always exciting to meet up with other creatives, and I love talking about entrepreneurship. I love talking about business. So hopefully there's some insights to share during our conversation. I'm sure it's going to be a good one. I run a video production company called Shutter Sauce. So we produce, all sorts of useful videos for businesses and nonprofits, fundraisers, usually designed to either help someone drive business to the bottom line, save some time, or build better relationships with their audience. And yeah, I've been doing this full time for 7 years now, almost, between Asia and United States. I started off as an accountant. I have a degree in accounting. I don't know how deep you want to go with my little intro here.
No, sure. Yeah. I mean, the deeper the better, because I would like to know how you got into the creative space, or were you creative since the jump from like when you were a kid, or did you just get into it 7 years ago while you were doing your accounting job? Just, yeah, give it to us, man.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I made videos growing up as a kid. Me and my friends, we would, you know, make stupid videos, man, with like a camcorder.
I think we all do.
um, and I actually, now that I think about it, it probably stemmed to back then. I haven't really thought about that, but that's probably where it all started, honestly. And I went to school, did everything I was supposed to do, everything that society tells you to do. Your parents tell you to do. We're conditioned to behave a certain way growing up. And I was not immune to that conditioning. I kind of followed a certain path and ended up in college. I was going initially for to become a pharmacist, to follow kind of in my mom's footsteps in the medical field. After a while of doing that, I kind of didn't really want to. And so I switched to business, and I specifically switched to accounting. And so I got my my degree in accounting. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting. I got my CPA license, sat for the exam. I'm still a CPA. I worked at one of the big accounting firms that everybody tries to get into, like the top 4 in the world. I did everything. And 3 years into my accounting career at this big company, I realized how everything that was sold to me was, I don't know if it was a lie. Maybe it was a lie, but it wasn't the right thing for me. I don't know, man. One day I was working really late, and during busy season in the accounting world, there are times when you're working 70, 60, 70, 80, 90, even 100, 110 hours a week for months at a time.
Yeah, a good friend of mine who I grew up with does it right now, and he tells me about his gruesome hours. I'm like, bro, how is that even legally possible to stack up 80 hours in 7 days? Or 5 days, 5 business days. It's crazy.
Yeah, you basically pull a 16-hour day and you go home, sleep, and then come back, essentially. So, yeah, I had ended up in that kind of environment, and my salary at the time was like 68,000. So do the math on, what does that math work out to in terms of your hourly rate? And I remember working late one night, and the partner comes in, and the partners are the ones that like sell projects, right? Like they're the ones that go out and, plan some of the projects, sell it. And then it all trickles down from there, to directors and senior managers and managers and so on and so forth. He came in one night, he was rarely there. And it was like 8 o'clock, and he saw me working like furiously on my laptop. He was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I just said, he said good, and I didn't even look at him, and he didn't say anything, and he left, and then he texted me, and he was like, "Hey man, I want you to know what you're doing is really important." And he didn't
Okay.
even,
Okay. We got something at least.
well, he didn't even bother to just talk to me, more like in person. Like, I don't know, man. It felt like such an afterthought. And I don't know. At that point, I was just like, man, what am I doing? Is this really like what I want to be doing the rest of my life? And not to dog on accounting as a profession, so there's some people that really like it. It just wasn't the right fit for me. And I grew up around entrepreneurship. My dad's an entrepreneur. My uncle is a successful entrepreneur. And that's when I really started to dabble in just side projects. And it wasn't video at first. Although I had been developing my skills with photo and video the whole time I was an accountant, just as a hobby, over 4 years, 3.5 years doing that, I got pretty decent at it, like just skill wise. But I started doing like social media marketing. I started doing like trying to do Amazon drop shipping, all these different business models, and none of them really worked out. And it was, at that point in my career, about 4 years into my career, I was age 25 at the time. I took an improv class, Improv 101, and I just did it because I thought it'd be fun. I wasn't, trying to be a stand-up comedian or anything like that. But in that class, 6-week long course, I met a guy who was a consultant at Microsoft. We became friends over the course of the class. And he saw my Instagram and he was like, "Hey man, like I looked at your stuff, like it's pretty good." And cause I had all my photo and hobby photo video stuff on there. And he was like, "Have you thought of starting a business?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I've tried in the past, but like it didn't really pan out. And I should probably just stick to my accounting career. I worked really hard to get to this point." And he said, "Well, if you're interested, I have a business network in Cambodia. We could go out there, work with my contacts. They're like real estate developers, property developers." And at the time I was like, man, I barely know this guy. And he's offering me to like go out halfway across the world with him. And I don't know anything about Cambodia. Like I pictured waking up in like a dingy room with like a flickering light and an ice bath with half my organs on the black market.
I mean, it does sound suspicious, just a tad bit.
Yeah, it was sketchy for sure. So I was like, all right, let me meet your contacts. And so I met with them. They were
very smart to do that.
Yeah.
Let me get some references first.
So we met with them, everything checked out. And I was like, all right, well, I was 25 at the time, like I said, and I was single. So like, there wasn't really anything that was like tying me down exactly,
Besides your career that you work hard for.
Yes. Besides my 5 years of schooling and CPA studies. And I told my boss at work, I said, "Hey, this is what I think of doing." And my manager, she was just like, "Hey, I mean, if it's what you want to do, like go for it. And if it doesn't work out, like we'll have a spot for you."
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I had some kind of safety net, at least. I didn't burn any bridges leaving. And then my mom, of course, freaked out. She said I was going to die and like catch some disease and just die out there basically. She was just a worried mom, of course. But yeah,
I mean, exactly. Like, how does she feel about like you leaving? I mean, this is what your parents would want you to do for your whole life. Go to the 4-year university, get a really great career, which I mean, on paper sounds like it, but then you're like, you know what, man, I'm just going to drop everything and just leave, not just leave my career field, but just leave the country.
Yeah. I mean, when you put it that way, it was insane. Like it's, most people would not do this. And I actually whoever's watching this, I do not recommend you do this if you're thinking doing something like this. And I'll explain why. But yeah, she said I was throwing my life away essentially. And I don't know, man. I just had such conviction in it. it just seemed like the right thing to do at the time. And it was just like an now or never kind of thing. I mean, when else was I going to be able to do that? It was also kind of, I just wanted the experience of what can I do something like that, Um, so I packed up my whole life basically in like 2 or 3 suitcases, and moved to Cambodia. I lived in Cambodia for 2 years. We did a lot of video work out there. So we had a team. I had like 2 or 3 people underneath me directly, like staff. And then there was probably like 8 other staff in the company for various things like accounting, and other stuff, operations.
And what was your specific role?
My vertical was like content producing.
Gotcha.
So, all of the photos, videos for clients. So we ran like an agency, basically a marketing agency. So website, not just like video photo, but like websites, graphic design, all that stuff. An all-in-one sort of media solution for companies out there. And yeah, it was a great experience. I mean, I traveled all of Asia, got to work with some cool clients. I even did like a project for Audi, Audi of Cambodia, like did like their Q5 launch. It was cool. I mean, the experience that I got, I saw the best sides of people. I saw the worst sides of people. I feel like I aged like 10 years out there. Not from like a gray hairs perspective, but more so from a life perspective, like a life perspective.
Well, you got some wisdom then.
Yes, wisdom. Yes. Because I just got exposed to so much in a short amount of time. And I didn't speak the language, it's just like, can you go and live somewhere that's foreign to you and survive? Essentially. And so it was not lucrative. I actually, I came out there with like 30 grand or something, and I came back with like negative 10 or 15,000 in credit card debt. So financially it was a failure, from that sense. But like I said, the experience was honestly life-changing. And
do you remember certain like key experiences or moments where you're like, well, lesson learned right here, outside of, I mean, just losing a lot financially?
Yeah. The business partner, the guy that brought me out there, he ended up being essentially a sociopath. He dipped basically on us like a year into it, because he brought me and another guy, one of his buddies, who was actually closer to him. He brought both of us out there, and he's one of those guys that like talks a lot and is charismatic, but it's like smoke and mirrors, I don't know if sociopath's the right word, but it didn't pan out. Let's just say that.
Sure.
And yeah, man, that was like crazy. That was wild. I remember that day. He just straight up walked out. He stole his buddy's laptop, never gave it back. Yeah, man. There were some, like when I say I feel like I got a lot like experience, wisdom out there. Like there was some really cool moments. There were some really not cool moments.
Right. And before you get back home and you started doing your production company that you're currently running, what lessons did you learn? Give me like at least 2 to 3 lessons that you learned from that experience that you brought into even today.
That's a great question, man. So I will say number one is, whenever you decide to do anything, go into business with somebody, venture down any sort of entrepreneurial endeavor, it should be very, very clear, like what you're setting out to accomplish, who's involved in it, what the responsibilities are of each person very clearly, and what the exit plan is. Like what happens if like things just don't pan out. Because for me, I probably stayed there maybe 6 to 9 months longer than I should have, because I just really was so invested and I really wanted to make it work. But the writing was on the wall a long time ago, like a long time before that. So I would say, just really evaluating what your plan is. And, plans can also change too. But just to really be clear on like what you expect to happen, and then being able to pivot and know when to cut ties and like, all right, like give this my all, but it's time to move on, you know? The second thing I would say is, just one of the best things that came out of that for me was just being in such a high stress situation and really experiencing what it's like to hit like rock bottom. I don't want anybody out there to go out and purposefully put themselves in a situation to hit rock bottom. But if you can experience failure on some level and really just learn from your failure and take the lessons from your failure. Like for me, the biggest failure was, like I said, I ran out of money and I didn't even have enough money to like pay rent or eat. And I was too embarrassed to ask my mom and my, just family for help because
they all told you.
Yeah, exactly. And it was very embarrassing. You're right. 100%. Told you so. I've experienced like true failure, on just a financial level like that. And also just like a pride level, that cut my pride a lot to not be able to eat even. So what I'm trying to say is like just being able to like recognize when you've had a failure, embrace it, and just realize that like you can move on from it and you can learn from it, now you know what to do to avoid that pain in the future.
Awesome. So you finally come back to the States, I'm assuming, right after 9 months after you should have left. And then what?
So I came back. It was December of 2018. And I came back and it was like reverse culture shock coming back. I had culture shock going there, and then I had reverse culture shock going back because I was just so not used to the States anymore. So that was the first thing. It took me probably a whole month to like just get my head on again straight. It was very disorienting. And I had to live in my mom's basement basically. I had no money. I was like negative 10 grand in debt. And because I was paying payroll for staff, like I would pay staff, not pay myself. It was all coming out of a credit card at that point. So I had no money. I was faced with going back to my accounting job, feeling like a failure. And I don't know what it was, but something inside me was like, man, I feel like I can do this. Like there has to be a way. And so what I did was I just went on YouTube and I literally typed in like, how to sell videos. That's like exactly what I typed in. And Marcus and Nick, their videos came up for Video Warrior on YouTube. And Video Warrior, for those that don't know, it was basically a coaching community for videographers who want to sell mostly corporate type work. So I looked at this community, I watched their videos, I poked around, I saw people closing deals, and there's posts in the Facebook community of like what deals were closed, all that stuff. And I was like, man, people are making like legit money doing this. Like it's possible. Like I saw the proof from multiple people. And I was like, all right, well, let's like look further into this. So after 2 weeks of poking around there, I hopped on a call with Marcus. And at the time they were running a program, Zero to Warrior. It was the first version of Zero to Warrior, and it was basically a online self-study course, $1,000, where you could learn how to make like basically video business cards or brand videos. That was like the one thing that they taught in that course, basically start to finish. Not the technical side of things, but like, how do you actually run through the strategy and get it done?
Yeah, because the technicalities, I mean, you get it's all for free on YouTube.
Yeah.
The triangle exposure, how do we frame, how do you do an interview? Like it's all out there for free. So
yeah, exactly. So I was on a literal sales call like this on Zoom with Marcus, and I told him this whole story basically, and he was like. And I actually even told him, I was like, look, man, like I literally have like $1,500 in my bank account and like negative 10. I don't know if I told him I had negative 10 grand in credit card debt, but I was like, I had $1,500 in my bank account. And he was like, and I was like, I'm on the fence. I don't know if I should do this. And he said, hey man, after listening to your story and everything that you told me, like it would be a disservice to you on my part to let you like walk away, because I believe that you could do this. And so he was actually one of the first people to like believe in me. And at the time I was like, man, you're just telling me this just to sell me your program.
That's exactly what I'm thinking right now. But I mean, I know what happens, but it's like, even now, it's like, you're just trying to sell me, buddy. Come on now. Like,
Yeah.
you're supposed to say all this to me.
Yeah. And I think if I'm remembering correctly, I think he was even like, and I think I believe like we'll see, like I'll see you in a Video Warrior Academy meetup, which is like the higher level mastermind that they were doing, like an actual meetup, maybe like six months from now, a year from now. And I was like, all right, man, like, and actually I still didn't even want to go through with it. And I was actually about to hop off the call and not go through with it. But he, with the sales, the salesman that Marcus is, he kept me on the call and he was like, all right, well, let's grab your credit card. So I signed up and I literally just binged the course, and I had already been starting to go to some networking events at that point and meeting people. So I had some sort of like exposure to getting in front of people. And within like 5 days of being in the course, I closed my first deal. And my first deal was for a real estate agent, and it was $1,500 for a PVC. So I made back the investment on the course and an extra $500. So that was like my very first glimpse of like light after a long period of darkness. Yeah, I did that brand video for the agent, and it turned out really well. And from there, I just started networking like crazy, man. I don't know how many. I would literally go to like 4 or 5 networking events a week.
Are you, do you consider yourself like a social butterfly, or like a in between introvert, extrovert?
I would say I am more skewed towards the introverted side.
Okay. And so if you're
Like
more,
if there was a scale from introvert to extrovert in the middle, and here is introvert, I'm closer to over here.
gotcha.
I'm like maybe like here,
Sure.
maybe halfway to middle.
Okay. So my point is like, how did you like muster up the courage to go out to these networking events? Because you mentioned that you've gone to a few at this point. How did you do it? Did you like, it's a fight or flight kind of thing, or?
Yeah, I mean, what was the alternative? I'd go back to my accounting career, where I knew for sure I would be miserable.
Uh-huh.
So which pain was less?
And then,
I mean, straight up. I mean, which pick your poison.
No, for sure, for sure. I mean, because one thing that, and I mentioned this in the pod before, like one thing that motivates me every day is I used to work in the hospital prior to freelancing, and I used to like transport these patients from the ER to like to the MRI, and sometimes have to like help pick them up sometimes, and they're like huge patients. And so I remember hating every day of my life when I was working there for 6 years, I want to say, 10-hour shifts every day. It was miserable. The people that are around me were so miserable themselves as well. Even docs that are making well beyond 6 figures, they were also miserable themselves. I'm like, is this going to be my future every day? So when I eventually pulled the trigger and bounced and left, it's like sometimes I need to like remember like, all right, this is the path we're doing, or do you want to go back to that 9 to 5 route where you're not going to like your job and you're going to be like that for the rest of your life? It's like, no, I'd rather grind it out, even though sometimes I don't even know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm just still trying to figure things out. But it's still working. And it's something that motivates me.
Pain can be obviously painful, but pain can also be used as a motivator. I don't want to say fear is the right word, but yeah, just certain outcomes can motivate you to move away from those outcomes. So, motivation, you can find motivation in a lot of different ways, but that's one of the ways that I find motivation is like, all right, well, what's the alternative? You gotta pick a path, and you gotta go for it at some point.
For sure.
So I just started going to networking events because I wanted to make it work, man. And I knew that to make it work, I have to like put myself out there.
How much success did you see? Did you see going through these networking events?
Um, I mean, it was huge because I would go to all these different networking events. I would literally look up events on like Eventbrite, like networking events near me, go to as many as I could. I would join the Renton Chamber of Commerce. You know, I walked in there and talked to them and see if it would be a good fit. Told them the same story as well. They said, "Hey, we'd love to have you. Like, we think you'd be an awesome member." Joined the Chamber of Commerce, went to all those events, met a lot of people through that, did a lot of work through that. You know, joined different networking groups like Biz to Biz, BNI, Provisors. Basically, I just went to literally everything I possibly could. And the great thing with networking events is like, you could be meeting like 10 to 50 people at a time in a very short amount of time. I mean, the other ways to do it is like cold emailing, cold calling, cold video emailing, right? Door to door. All of those are just ways of getting in front of people. So it doesn't necessarily even have to be networking events. Like for certain businesses, that might not make sense, but the whole thing was like me getting in front of people that would be interested in my services, and also like just trying to help other people too, you know, learn about other people and how I could support them and refer people to them. But yeah, that's what I did over and over again. I did good work, met people, did good work, did it quick, rinse and repeat for a long time, for like 2 years straight.
And in these 2 years, are you still one man banding it?
The first, I would say 9 months, yes, was one man banding. And that was really hard because it's just a lot, as you know, to do pre-production, do filming, do post-production, all of it. It's a lot. So one of the first people I hired on, not full-time, but and still to this day is contractors, is like editors. So I have editors that fully help with just post-production side of it.
How important is that to the business?
That's crucial. Yeah. I would not be doing this if I was still one man banding. It's just not sustainable. You would burn out so hard. I mean, maybe some people can do it. I would burn out so hard. So hiring an editor was crucial. And then I started hiring other videographers, you know, to help on certain projects if there was budget. And it just grew from there, man. I just also practiced my sales continuously and got better and better and better and better.
How did you practice your sales? Because it's something that most creatives are just awful at, is selling the video. They could tell you how they're going to shoot it in 4K and with these amazing tech and gear, but like they just cannot sell the actual service.
Yeah, the initial resource and one of the main ones I used was Marcus's ebook. He had an ebook, Video Selling Formula, I think it's called. And I read that thing like 5 times. And I followed it to a T at first. And then over the years, I just modified it. And as I picked up things of my own and made my own style based off of it as a foundation. And you've already been through my, you know, thing, my coaching. So you've seen kind of my style and seen me do it. And I still learn stuff about sales. I mean, I'm good at sales for sure, but I think there's always something to improve. And I just slowly started raising my rates over time. You know, the better I got, the more my rates went up. The better results I got for my clients, the more my rates went up. And at a certain point, I had to decide, like, all right, am I going to scale this thing or am I going to stay like small and lean? And my option was to go for a small and lean company, just because I wanted to prioritize lifestyle over just sheer revenue. To me, being an entrepreneur, one of the main draws to me is to like have complete control over my day and my schedule, and to keep my stress as low as possible, basically to the extent that's possible. Building a big company still to this day is not something I want to do. I let her make all the money in the world. And in my opinion, like just for me personally, I like to just keep a simple life, man. Honestly, I'm a simple guy.
Yeah.
I don't need flashy things. I just want to live a life I enjoy. And that's why I got into entrepreneurship. So
when did you start noticing like true success? And I know you'd mentioned that you're a simple guy. You want to just control your lifestyle and just be stressless, which I'm kind of the same way. Like I like to just if I want to take a trip, I'm gonna take a trip. That's my way of success. But when did you start seeing business success for the entrepreneurs out there that are listening?
I guess it depends on what your definition of business success is. I mean, if you're looking at it from a revenue standpoint, let me just I'm just pulling this up real quick. So in 2019, my first year in business was $69,132, which matched my salary at
Wow.
PwC. Now, obviously, that's not profit. A lot of it was profit because I wasn't even hiring. I was doing a lot of one-man banding, but that wasn't just straight up profit. But I mean, I came somewhat within range of my salary. That to me was a success already in the first year. And then my second year, COVID, I tripled that in 2020. So
Jeez.
that was like, all right, I can do this, you know. And I did it during COVID, so I was like, I feel like I can just keep. I feel like this is probably sustainable.
Wow.
So I would say probably at the end of 2020, I was like, all right, I should for sure. Not that I wasn't committed already, but I was like, all right, I feel like I can keep going with this.
So, question: how did you differentiate your videography services from competitors in the market? Because there's a million kids out there that own a fancy Sony camera, Canon camera that say offer similar things when it comes to the content creation space. So, what made you stick out from the masses?
Man, I think there's a lot that goes into it to stand out, and it's gonna really depend on each person's background and skills. Well, one thing, I had a good business acumen already because I was a CPA and auditor. So like from a financial standpoint, in terms of like the numbers and running a business, I already had a good idea of like how to manage all that. So from just the get go, from that, just from my background. Secondly, really taking the time to listen to clients and understand what they're struggling with on a very intimate level, in terms of just making them feel comfortable to share like what their problems are and where they want to be in terms of like helping to try and bridge the gap and understand what it's going to take to bridge the gap, and then offering the solution. So just really having heart to heart conversations with people, not trying to like be just sell them, pitch them random stuff, but really taking the time to like spend quality conversations with people. And then delivering on those expectations and delivering like to a T, you know, like what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. Like literally everything and then the finished product has to be excellent. So from start to and managing the whole project so that they can be as hands off as possible. So, I mean, I can't tell you one exact thing that is going to stand out. The whole process has to be really like above and beyond, you know. That's how I built my business. I didn't do a lot of advertising. I didn't do a lot of crazy things. I networked a lot and I did really good work, and I made people feel special, and I made them feel like it was very worthwhile, their investment, you know?
And I could attest to like your it's called marketing, because even your socials, man, it doesn't scream out like, hey, I have a video production business. Like you should just posting like unless I'm not following like the business account or something, but I just see like travel stuff, so it's like you don't really advertise yourself as that. So like that just shows like, hey, word of mouth or the networking events that you're doing, it's just like it's proven to like work.
Yeah.
And it's all not all about social media marketing.
Yeah. There's different avenues to market your business. There's no one exact right way to do it. You know, Justin, he's recently been posting more videos, but Justin Vinima, he also had not much of a social presence, and he did the same thing I did basically. So there's so many different ways to do it. But for me, just came down to networking as much as possible, getting my work in front of people as fast as possible with like a really high quality.
Right. And how do you stay up to date with like the latest trends and technologies in the videography space? Like, how do you incorporate them into your work?
Um, I've spent a lot of money on coaching over the years, like a ton. Not just Marcus and Nick. I've had actually a lot of coaches. Um, and I'm always like learning from other people in this space who are running their own production companies, and also people outside the video production space. I had coaches like outside the video production space too.
Yeah, because business is all relatable to at
Yeah.
the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. I've had a time productivity coach. I've had two of them. I've had, just a general business coach, leadership coach, therapist. There's another business coach, like a second one. And I pick up different things from different people, you know? So I think, and just, I also invest in courses, more like other courses. I'm going through 2 courses right now.
So it's not just take one course and boom, you're done. It's like you're always investing in yourself.
Yeah, I think the best thing that you can do as an entrepreneur is to invest in yourself, because there can always be a downturn in your business, or you can always like maybe have to move and lose clientele, or something happens. Maybe you go bankrupt. I don't know, man. Life's hard. Things happen. But the one thing that you can never lose is your mind. So by investing in yourself, you're basically investing in something that can never be taken away from you.
Right. No, that's a bar right there. Outside of courses, are you like reading anything, any books, any podcasts you're consuming?
Yeah, I just read books right now. I'm going through essentialism. So this goes kind of into the things I'm talking about, of just living a simple life, less is more kind of thing. I usually just read books, business books.
Right. Jeez. And well, I mean, yeah, it's crazy to see how far you've gone, man. And so let's get a little nerdy with let's talk about a little bit about gear.
Okay.
What kind of camera gear are you using during these productions?
Yeah, so I would say my entire gear set, it's not crazy, man. I think it's maybe 20 grand, the whole set. I know videographers that have $100,000 in gear. I have a Sony A7S III, which is what you're seeing right now. I have, 3 different G Master lenses, which is like, if you know Sony, that's like top of the line Sony lenses. I have Zeiss, 1 or 2 Zeiss lenses. Sony A7 III is a backup cam, Rode wireless mic, offset, a DJI wireless mic, offset, aperture lighting, key light, backlight, fill light, DJI gimbal, DJI Air 2S drone. That's the bulk of my gear, man.
Yeah.
Some stands, sandbags, some filters, like Promise filters and ND filters and polarizers. I mean, maybe not even 20K. I don't know. Honestly, I don't really care either.
Yeah. It sounds like you don't really care about it, because most like videographers, they geek out. I love talking about it, but I know it's not all about gear. It's like, it's just truly not about gear.
Yeah, I know enough to make it look really good, and I don't obsess over the last 10% or 5%, because unless you are a nerd and it's just what you love, that's pointless to me, and the clients will never ever notice it unless they specifically ask for a ride or something like that. I'm telling you, it is like the biggest waste of money is to overinvest in gear.
Might get some pushback on that one, but it's so true though.
I mean, like I said, if there are jobs where like you specifically need that gear, yeah, I understand. But for the type of work that I do, for the type of work that the majority of videographers are doing, you do not need a $30,000 camera. You just don't. Your money will be better spent going and getting a networking membership, or advertising yourself,
Or investing in yourself on a coach,
or investing
something.
in yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. What strategies did you like apply to ensure client satisfaction and to make sure you have that long term relationship with them?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's different tools that we use, and I've developed this over the years. Different software, different processes. So first, there's like onboarding, and so really clear contracts with like exactly what's being done, when it's being done, everything like airtight. And then payment processing. I process my payments through Square. I keep track of all my projects just in an Excel sheet because I'm an accountant. So I just developed my own spreadsheets. Onboarding emails that are standard for the most part. They're sent out. Just deep dive sessions that are clearly like where we organize like the shoot, and pick days to film and what we're filming, get the story, whatever it is, all that down, like all our ducks in a row. And then the actual day of just coaching on set, making people feel comfortable, being a good director, bringing the best out of people, not just accepting answers, but really digging deep with people and getting the best that you possibly can from them. And then, once the shoot is done, on the post-production side of things, Dropbox used for like a lot of storing client projects, sometimes for transferring stuff to, hard drives, if the project's really big, to send to mail to editors, Descript for captioning, for like social reels, and then just any other captioning, Frame or Dropbox Replay. I'm transitioning to Dropbox Replay now for version control and like editing, like revision feedback, just so everything stays in one place. It's easy to see. Asana for project management and tracking all the tasks that come into for a particular project, just keeping all the project management in one place. I'll try to see if I missed anything. Websites, Webflow, Gmail is G Suite for the business domain stuff. Vimeo for video hosting for high quality. I don't know if that's, was I answering your question? I don't know, man.
I think you are, man. But that's all on your end. But do clients, can you tell they appreciate you because, like you said, your objective is to make sure they're hands off and you're there from the very beginning to the very end without having them worry about anything for the most part.
Yeah. A lot of that comes with just being clearly communicating a key steps, like I said, during the process. Whether it's via email or whether it's, over a Zoom call, during planning. But, a big thing is making sure that the clients know what to do with the video and they have a plan on what to do with it and get it out there. And then also, checking in and following up, once every 3 months or so, even a month after the project ends, to see how things are going, see if they need help with implementation. Connecting to people, being a connector. So, just connecting your clients ideally will be cool people, right? So that you can connect them together. And there's no benefit. There's nothing in it for me. I just want people to meet each other. That just goes back to networking. And honestly, becoming friends with my clients, some of them that where you're ideally, some of your clients, at least you'll really get along with, even better than some other ones. And you can develop real friendships. I have a few clients that are friends.
Yeah. One thing you'd mentioned right now is making sure the client knows what to do once you get the actual final end video. It's one thing I've noticed, just people that I followed on my business Instagram that are business owners, whether it's real estate or small mom and pop shops or even schools and universities, they just don't know how to really distribute the content or even posting it correctly on certain platforms. It's I feel that's one thing that content creators could really grasp and capitalize on by just even doing the basics as far as distribution goes.
Yeah. A video that just sits on a shelf or is only just put up on a website is honestly, I don't know. People could be doing so much more with videos, and it's kind of a waste, if your client, if you just hand off a video to a client, they don't do anything with it. That's a waste of money in my opinion.
Hmm.
So making sure that I think everything can be traced back to like, do you want your clients to win? You know, or is it that after they pay you, that's it, on to the next? Like,
What is something that a business can do, like besides posting it on their website? What else can they do with that piece of content?
depends on what piece of content it is. But I mean, if you're talking about a brand video, it can go in the email signature. It can be sent out to their existing customer database. If they have an email list, it can be sent to referral partners. If they have people that like send them business to include the video along with the business. It can be put on business cards with a QR code to scan and view the video right away, to show on people in person. It can be used as an ad on social, shorter cuts of it, especially if you make a shorter cut variant of the brand video, run it as an ad. It can be used before sales meetings.
It can be used a million ways.
Yeah.
You can
It could
chop
be
it up.
pinned to the top of your social. You can
Yeah.
make reels out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just so many things.
Yeah.
So it depends on the video, of course, but yeah.
So like now that you're doing pretty well in the business side of video production, so I know you've been dabbling into the coaching space, and how has that been for you?
That's been good, man. I think I was up in the high 50s with students who had gone through the course. Honestly, I that was an experiment for me, to be honest. I was never trying to make a bunch of money off of that. I just wanted to like help people and see if I could. And I did. That was kind of crazy. I didn't expect, there was a few others too that like literally just DM'd me, and I saw comments online in groups of like how they took my course and it changed the game for them.
Till today, I still watch the course, man. Like I'll to give myself a refresher at least once a month, and it's always something new that I pick up.
That's great, man. Honestly, like I'll probably add more to it, but I really try to design that to be as comprehensive as possible with as little fluff as possible. And I think I will get back into coaching at some point. I bought a house last year, so like
Big congrats.
my focus, thank you. My focus has been really laser focused on my business for a while now, just because that is my main income producing activity, and houses are very expensive.
Oh yeah,
Like not just the down payment, but like once you're in, you have to basically
all,
at the basically an extra $1,000.
all these hidden fees everywhere and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I basically spend an extra $1,000 a month on top of my mortgage of like straight up just maintenance or like additions and improvements. So I will get back to coaching. It's not a priority for me right now, but I will go back to doing it more actively in the future, because I know I can. I've already have the proof that I can help people. So, yeah, it's been cool, but not a focus right now.
Any last 3 tips for any creative out there that's trying to get into the freelance space or the entrepreneur space in general?
Find the right mentors. That's number one. Find people that have already done what you want to do, and then learn from them. Like be a sponge. Number 2 is you need to get out in front of people. I don't care how you do it, but like whether it's networking events, whether it's cold calls, whether it's cold emails, whether it's video emails, whether it's spending money on ads. I don't recommend doing that if you're just starting out, but spending money on ads, you need to get in front of people somehow. Pick your path or paths, and you just have to you literally have to consistently do it like every day, basically for a while, until at least you build your base. And then number 3, I would say is like, and this is something that like I really struggled with and burned out a lot doing, was just try not to like burn yourself out and just chase the money and like feel like you have to be making as much as possible all the time. And I still have to remind myself of this, it's really easy to get caught up in like just hustling. And if you hustle too much and you don't take the time to recharge and just like enjoy your life, you will burn out over and over. And that is a really bad place to be as an entrepreneur, because if you burn out, it really sucks the drive to like keep going. And I had to learn that the hard way, like many times actually. And I still to this day have to remind myself to take breaks. I'm a lot better now. Like I'm way better than I used to be. Um, yeah, that would be actually, it's a big one I forgot to mention earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw you came back from your big trip too recently, right?
Yeah, I didn't make any money last month, but you know, that's fine. I wanted to take the trip and you know, be with my girlfriend and her parents.
That's the one thing about not having a job is like no PTO.
Nope. Nope.
Well, Farid, it's been a pleasure having you in the podcast, man. It's been great hearing your story. We've been following each other for a few years now. And I remember seeing you in that specific Facebook group, like, oh, I recognize him from Instagram. Like, I didn't know he was actually a mod here. And then I saw the course. I'm like, well, I've been following this cat for a long time. I clearly trust him. And it was well worth, what, less than $200 purchase. Like, I think could have been worth $1,000 and it still would have been a lot, like really worth it. But yeah, I learned a lot. And one thing I loved about that course, and hopefully you have it up pretty soon, so and potential new listeners will invest in that, is that you had examples of your actual sales pitch meetings, which was like mind blowing to me. There's a million courses out there that, hey, this is how you do A, B, and C and D, but you don't see them actually applying it. So it's like, dude, I need I need a little bit more guidance. And then you actually show the concept of how to switch your mind into getting into a sales meeting. And then you actually see it and it's like, wow. Like I remember him saying that in module number 2 or 3, and it's actually freaking working out for him. So it's like, started applying that. And it's, I mean, I've told you, like my first year, I don't know, I forget how much I made, but the second year I more than doubled that. And I still apply that till even today, man.
Yeah, man. It works.
It works.
It works because I've done it. So,
but all right, Farid. Well, it's been a pleasure, man, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
cool. Thanks, Alberto.
All right.